more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. Oh, you're Catholic? Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You acted like an American, okay? Now, there's a number of different things that have to be done in this country to change the culture, which will in turn change the politics.
And the culture's a swamp. But that is not a Catholic teaching.
Right.
And the cafeteria is closed, my friend.
Yeah. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. He tells the truth, just like we do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. We got a great show for you tonight because, as we always say, the left is teeing it up for us, and we're Barry Bonds standing at home plate, ready to knock their lies right into San Francisco Bay. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. Once more, dear friends, tonight we are going into the breach. We want to thank you, as always, for joining us here on Facebook Live, Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, like clockwork, like I always say. We got a great show for you tonight because there's a lot of nonsense going out there. And Joe and I have become very good at talking about the nonsense that's going on out there. And you guys seem to be very entertained by it, so we're just going to keep doing it. Couple of notes. Quick thank you, Jonathan Ross, Holy Faith Media. We had him on overtime this last week because we have a couple of different things on our Facebook page. Please remember to like and share our Facebook page and invite friends to join us. There's an interview with Rick Delano, and Rick Delano, it's basically talking about the end of quantum reality, and it's not altogether, it's a normal conversation, even though some of it is scientific language, but it's going to be very insightful for you. And we are very proud of that interview, and we are also very proud that we were able to have an interview with our new friend of ours and a friend of the show, Joseph Chiambra, and it's a very powerful interview. Joseph lived in a gay lifestyle for years in the Castro district of San Francisco, and he's been evangelizing for the last 20 years. So he is a voice crying out in the wilderness, and he really, truly goes into the breach in many, many different ways. So we're proud to count him amongst our friends. And so you can see our interview with him both on our page, and please go and follow him also on Facebook on his page, which is Joseph Chiambra, SCIAMBRA, and also on his website, www.josephchiambra.com. So some very interesting stuff. We're trying to provide you with as much content as we can, aside from the show that we do on Sunday nights, where we talk about the insanity that's going on out there. And speaking of the insanity, let's go there.
And one more thing before we get into it. On Tuesday of this week, we will be on the Crusade Channel, which is broadcasted out of New Orleans, the New Orleans metropolitan area. We'll also be on the Crusade Channel. We'll be on from 11 to 12. That's New York Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time. And then on the 30th, we'll be on from 11 to 2. You have to pay for that. So if they have a lot of good content. Take a look at the website. It's a pay-per-view radio station, and I believe to listen to us at this point, it's $16 a month. That does not go to us.
Well, yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, we don't make anything, but it's
Nope.
well worth it because Mike Church on the Crusade Channel, he's putting out some great content. All of it is something that all Catholics should see, both his show, the lineup of people like Rick Barrett, who we will be filling in for, and a lot of other informative and entertaining stuff on the Crusade Channel. So we would definitely recommend that you go and subscribe to the Crusade Channel.
Okay, so let's get into the show. As Joe said, we got a lot of good stories. We're going to begin with Bernie Sanders and his campaign.
So you say his name and the anger meter starts to go up immediately. So go ahead.
There was an undercover video show, basically, which there was an organizer. His name is Kyle Jurek, and he was pining for violent reactions and re-education gulags if the Democrats lost. So basically, this is basically what he said in a nutshell. In Nazi Germany, after the fall of the Nazi Party, there was an SIT ton of populace that was effing Nazified. Jurek says, Germany had to spend billions of dollars re-educating their effing people to not be Nazis. He predicted that doing the same effing thing here would be necessary to re-educate Trump's supporters. and in fact suggested that that was the purpose of Sanders' free education for everyone stance. Let me read you another one of the quotes.
But repeat that. That's what Bernie Sanders wants to do with re-education. He knows he can't re-educate you, older people, okay? So he wants to make sure that the public schools are trumpeting his line, you know, the party line, and indoctrinating your kids with their nonsense. And the reason why, as Kyle Jurek just said, because you're a Nazi. You're a Nazi. And by the way, just to mention it, and this was exposed.
Yeah, it's called Exposed 2020, and there are 2 videos. Look them up. You can look them up and see them live.
But I think it's Project Veritas.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
Project Veritas,
correct.
Which is doing phenomenal work with their undercover videos, blowing up the left. Not literally, not like this guy Kyle Jurek wants to do, and Joe will get into some of his violent solutions in a minute. But Project Veritas is very valuable because those guys don't care. All right, they get people on video.
And that's what they got. They got them on video.
They got this guy on video. This guy's a scary dude.
And he
probably actually believes all this stuff.
He's actually been arrested too. He has a record for public intoxication as well as for drugs, narcotics.
Okay, well
and he's the field officer for Iowa for Bernie Sanders.
Right.
This is absolutely.
And from what I understand, he's been paid somewhere in the neighborhood, because obviously it's all disclosed, somewhere in the neighborhood of $11,000. So Bernie is trying to dismiss it, from what I understand, as being, I'm not going to listen to gossip. That's what Bernie Sanders said.
Well, actually, let me give you the quotes, but then I'm going to give you what their campaign said. This is the second thing. I have a number of little shorts that he basically was spewing on the videos. He says, to the end that Jurek also defended the gulags of Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin as places meant for re-education, where forced workers were actually paid a living wage and had conjugal visits. In reality, peasants and political dissidents and others were abducted by the state and forced into menial labor without trial. This is the Soviet Union. Working 14 hours a day in squalid conditions, many died to exhaustion, starvation, and execution. I actually have 2 books here, which I have read, one of which, they're very famous books. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. This is by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and this is another book. It's Gulag Archipelago, which actually talk about the gulags. Alexander Solzhenitsyn was in the gulag. He was put in there because he wrote a letter to a friend and basically made a slight comment about Stalin, and he was imprisoned for 7 years, and then he was put in, basically they put him away from his family, I think for another like 10,
right,
for making a comment. So this man, he either doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, he knows what he's talking
about. Or
he
does know what he's talking about, and basically would put people like us in prison.
Yeah. That's what we have to talk about. Now, Joe's going to get into more of his quotes, okay? You need to be re-educated, and if you refuse re-education, you're going to be put in prison. They're going to work you to death. Let's say, basically, it's a concentration camp. So whose word are we supposed to take? Kyle Jurek when it comes to the Gulag, or the guy who spent 7 years there, Solzhenitsyn, who wrote extensively on it, okay? We try to say all the time, this is not conspiracy theory. This is a Sanders worker, campaign worker in Iowa, saying if the Democrats lose, go ahead, I'm going to shut up. Joe, read the quotes.
Let me read a few more. Jurek fantasizes about forcing billionaires to break rocks for 12 hours a day, to teach them they aren't superior to the working class and that effing Milwaukee will burn. If Sanders loses the Democratic nomination, complete with police getting effing beaten and dragging television pundits into the street and lighting them on fire. Let me go on. Well, I'll tell you what, in Cuba, what did they do to reactionaries? You want to fight against the revolution? You're going to die for it, mother effer, he declares. If your speech is calling for people to be eliminated on the basis of race, gender, and religion, like for whatever reason, things that people can't change, then you should expect an effing violent reaction.
Now pause there a second. You heard what he said. I want to know who's calling for violence based on race, gender, and blah, 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 and all the different ways they break us all up into different groups. Who's calling for the violence? I try to stay on top of all this stuff, and so does Joe. The bottom line is, where is this right-wing fascist violence in America? Where is it? I see Antifa. I see Black Lives Matter. I see those groups breaking things and hurting people. I've got yelled at in my face praying in front of Planned Parenthood in New York City, and seeing again, they haven't gotten to the point of violence, but they're right in your face, shouting you down, screaming while people are praying, simply praying the rosary. So I've seen the violence with my own eyes. So where is this violence that he's talking about? He's trying to convince you that that basically the fascists, which mean Trump supporters, are violent. Maybe they haven't been yet, but they will be. That's what he's trying to say. So to preempt that, because he knows, because he's so frigging enlightened, that he knows we're going to be violent, he wants to preempt that by perpetrating the violence, burning down Milwaukee.
Let's go.
Okay?
Let's go on.
Taking reporters and setting them on fire in the street, and we're the fascists?
He goes on. He says, many of the organizers within the Sanders campaign are further left than Democratic Socialists, and that many Sanders supporters are also members of the far-left Antifa movement, which is known for violence. This is somebody who works for Bernie Sanders. If you do not believe us, please Google when this show is over, because we got more stuff for you.
Yeah, don't leave the show.
Project Veritas. There are 2 videos, and it's called Exposed 2020. The man's got a beard. They're like in a bar, and someone's taping him. And this is what he's saying. And he's the field operator for Sanders' campaign in Iowa.
I don't understand why people think that in America you can't have a gulag. I don't understand when you have people like this. I met people like this in my life. So he's not somebody who's shocking to me. I've met people that told me flat out they think we should just kill all the.
Well, there are people in this country that would put us in prison in a second.
Yeah,
there are people in the Pacific Northwest, in like places like Seattle and in Oregon and in California. Even in California, it's not the Pacific Northwest. There is no question. If you're not for same-sex marriage, they think you should be re-educated
or die,
or die,
or die.
And there is no question in my mind that there are people like that. You see, that's the difference between them and us. I'll disagree with you. I'm not putting you in prison. I'll even pray for you. But that's the difference. They claim to be the tolerant ones, and we have other stories that are similar to this as we go on through the night. They're the most intolerant people on the earth. And by the way, they're the fascists.
Of course they are.
That's what fascists do. They don't even know what it means to be a fascist.
Well, they couldn't define fascism for you. They don't know the first thing. All they do is they think that people that what they'll try to implant in people's minds is fascist means Nazi, means they're the enemy, means they should all die. That's really what they're trying to say. So what they do is they call Trump, and remember, we said this before, they're not calling Trump a fascist. They're calling you a fascist if you vote for him. That's what they're saying. We said it before. They're calling you the hater. You're the one who wants to marginalize people. You're the one who wants to kill people. You're the one who wants to perpetrate violence on people. They even have hoaxes out there like Jussie Smollett, who got stone cold busted faking that attack. Okay? Because that's what they want to try to convince everybody of. So when they start being violent, their response is going to be, we're only reacting to hate. We are only violent against those who are violent and hateful. That's what they're trying to do. And what does it mean to be hateful? You're pro-life, okay? You're against gay marriage, or let's nicen that up a little bit. You're against any arrangement for marriage outside of one man and one woman.
Keep this in mind too. Look at the country from an electoral map perspective, the red versus the blue. And I've said this to someone at work, basically. And I use the parallel of the Antifa folks versus the Proud Boys. Google, when this show is done, a picture of what the Proud Boys look like. You ever see what the guys from Antifa look like? They're postgraduate, basically skinny kids who are basically living on mommy and daddy's dime in these cities. Take a look at what the Proud Boys look like. They're like Teamsters carrying like 2x4s. You see, this is the thing that actually scares me for them. If these people ever unleash the wrath of America, they would get ground into dust. And it's not going to be people like me
or me
coming after them. It's going to be people in rural Pennsylvania driving pickup trucks, dragging you from the back of your truck. They're going to drive into Williamsburg, Brooklyn, grab you and drag you through the night, through the back of your truck. And I am not for that. And I would be against it. And I would be on this show speaking against it. These people have no power. And yet they're making claims like this. What happened in the 60s in Chicago? The cops beat the living hell out of those people. Look at the footage of it. They turned fire hoses on them. And if you unleash this like monster, you're not going to come out on top of it.
But how does that, but here, let's talk about this real quick. But how does that happen? Okay. It happens because, number one, you have a group of people in this country who don't agree with the left, who are vocal, and are tired of being called names. They want intelligent debate on all these issues, whether it's climate change, whether it's gay marriage, whether it's abortion. They want intelligent debate in this country, which doesn't exist. There really doesn't. There are no major debates on these things because we're told by the left all the time, it's settled, we're moving on. If you disagree, you're a fascist, and we will ground you into dust. Then they send out their little white liberal rich kids in the form of Antifa to go out and break things and hurt people like they did to Andy Ngo, okay?
Who is gay?
Who is gay, okay? So the gay community didn't have anything to say about
say
that gay guy getting the crap beat out of him, okay? They send them out to try to provoke violence. Because what they want, and this is where we have to caution people out there, you can't give in to violence for this reason. This is what the oligarchs, particularly on the left, want. They want revolution, and they know the way to get to revolution is through violence. They know Antifa is going to provoke a reaction. We're here to tell you that you cannot react to these people in a violent way, because that's going to become another violent reaction and it works dialectically up to the point where you're setting the stage for revolution. That's what they want. That's what we don't want. I don't want revolution. What I want is both of us, we want some sanity restored in this country. And the only way you're going to get sanity is if we get back to using our reason to solve our problems instead of political ideology and dividing everybody along these racial lines and gender lines and ethnic lines, where we could sit down and be reasonable. As Isaiah said, come let us reason together.
Well, let's go to see what Sanders' campaign said in response
Let's
to
give
this.
A quick
and it's a video.
Let's give a quick shout out. Sue's joining, Eddie, Susan. Hey, Susan, how you doing? Haven't seen you. PM's joining in, John, Arvin, Barbara. Hello from Wisconsin. Hello. Kyle Jurek, Barbara, said that they're going to effing burn down Milwaukee. We hope that doesn't happen, okay? And Vinny's out there also, and Joe's joining us. Just real quick, Joe. PM, look, we don't have a bias towards the right. I love you to death. We don't have a bias towards the right. But the fact is, right now, it is the left that is off the rails. We're not biased because we criticize, and you've heard us on this show criticizing right-wing evangelical Christians a whole lot on this show. Conservatives, a whole lot on this show. In this conversation on this guy, we are dealing with a hardcore Stalinist who wants revolution and is threatening to burn things down. That's where we're focused tonight. We love you and respect you, but please, you can't accuse us of not being fair. We're always fair on this show.
Let's go to what Sanders' campaign said. They basically said, the hundreds of thousands of Iowans we've talked to this caucus season don't care about political gossip. They care about making health care a human right, taking on climate change, making college affordable, and ending endless wars. By the way, I care about those things too. But this isn't gossip because it's on tape. Gossip is talk between people that may or may not be true. This is a tape, someone who's on your payroll. And this is what I'd like to put out to all of you who are listening to my voice. Do you imagine if this was a Donald Trump campaign officer?
Talk about burning down San Francisco.
Saying something like that? Do you imagine the press that they would get? Oh my goodness, you want to talk about a biased media? No one's talking about this. We're talking about it. And look it up. You could watch it if you don't believe us. This is someone who is paid by Sanders' campaign. Paid. He's a paid employee.
Right. Why? Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the most recent development. I don't think. I think that was the only response was that, well, we're not going to listen to gossip. So I imagine the guy is still out there. But this is where we really, really, really have to be careful because they again talk. We have Joe and I are here. One of the main reasons we're here is to talk about they're softening us up, or at least they think they're softening us up to the violence. So it starts with beating up this poor gay kid, Asian kid, ending to go out in California.
They hit him with a battery.
They hit him with they milkshaked him. They busted up his face. He had to go to the hospital. It starts with acts of violence like that, and then it just starts to escalate from there. We must be careful. One of the things I would say is this. We need to all tell, especially where a lot of these events occur, we need to tell the mayors, the city councils, the police commissioners, if you're a citizen in those towns or in nearby towns, you better do your job. If these people come in with masks on, I cannot walk down the street in my town with a bandana over my face and a hoodie with my hands in my pocket wearing all black and a backpack with a bicycle lock sticking out of it. I'm going to get questioned by the cops.
And you should.
And you should. Now, if 100 people are walking down my town, the street in my town, all right, and they're chanting nonsense, some leftist slogan, the cops better do their job. The one thing I will say about Antifa, they always focus on places where they know they can get away with it. Seattle, Portland, where they tell the cops to stand down. Cops don't want to put up with this stuff. Of course, cops don't want to put up with this nonsense. They hate the cops too. And this guy, Kyle Jurek, is saying, burn down the police stations or kill the cops.
Actually says F and beat them up.
Yeah, beat the cops. When the cop shoots you in the face, what are you going to say then? Oh, he's a fascist? You can't threaten cops. It's one of the main things is that we could say all this all we want. These people have no power. If the municipalities where they're being most active would actually clamp down on them and tell the police, these people don't have a permit, get them off the street. Flood the entire jail, okay? Hold them overnight, hold them over the weekend, we don't care, okay? But do your job and arrest these people. And if they get violent, beat the crap out of them, then arrest them.
Because the police support and didn't react, you have people like the Proud Boys to react. And there's a photo of them, you could Google it, of these guys walking across a bridge in Portland. Dude, these guys are like jacked. Huge. They look like they're Teamsters. You think you're going to talk sense to them? And like I said, you're not going to come out on the winning end of that. You see, that is a reaction because the police were not doing their job. So the people say, if you're not going to do the job, we are. That is what will happen if this continues in this direction.
And that's a recipe for disaster.
And like I said, I would be against it. I'm not for violence like that. But if that was to happen, people like Kyle Jurek, they're not going to be on the winning end of it. They're not. There's not enough of you. You people who are in the big cities drinking your goat milk latte with a cinnamon stick hanging out of it for $8 a pop aren't going to stand down the Teamsters from Western Minnesota. I'm just telling you,
well,
you're not going to do too well.
But this is what we have to be careful about in this country because yes, we are dealing with Stalinists. And when you're dealing with Stalinists, you have to understand they're thinking, this guy Jurek is thinking 10 steps ahead. He knows what he's saying is inflammatory. He knows what he's saying is going to get guys like us upset. What he wants is actually he's probably a coward like the rest of them. He probably wants to send out others to get martyred. Because these Proud Boys that he's talking about,
they'll beat the living hell out of these kids.
These Proud Boys got to get it through their head too. You want to block Antifa? I'd be with there. I would be with you. Okay. You want to prevent them from, let's say, processing down the street if they don't have a license from the town or the city? I'll be with you. You want to, you gotta refrain from the violence because you're just like I said. That's why I bring up this guy Jurek being a Stalinist. That's what they want. They want a violent reaction. They want revolution. Why do Americans think sipping that goat milk latte with the cinnamon stick? Why do they think that America's immune from revolution? It was founded on a revolution. We had a civil war that cost 500,000 lives. We're not exempt or immune from anything that has happened in human history. And these guys want revolution. Before we go to the next one, real quick, PM, I know you're fair, and we're fair, okay? So just understand, we are conservative. We do come from the right most of the time. But all I was trying to help, I know you remember, is that we are very critical of the right too when the time comes. Tonight, we just happen to be on the left. We love you.
Okay. We are going to go to the abortion issue. Why? Well, we talk about abortion a lot on this show. We are obviously pro-life folks. We are Catholic men, and we are abolitionists when it comes to abortion. No abortion, because a child is in the womb, and they have rights, and they have a right to life. It's a basic right. However, this week there's a lot of things going on in the news regarding abortion, because on Friday, it's January 24th, is the March for Life East Coast. It's in DC. I've attended it once. I went when my daughter was, I think, 18 months old. Me and my wife went down. It's quite an event. It's an event where 500,000 people show up in DC and no media covers it. Let me repeat that. 500,000 people will be in Washington, D.C. There will be little to no coverage. There will be a 3-second blurb on, you name the media outlet, and that will be it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll stop there. But I think these stories are...
Well, they'll cover it only to say the March for Life occurred. They won't tell you 500,000 people were there. They'll lie like they do every year that it's just a handful of people. I went once also. I never saw more people in my life. Okay, in one gathering. So it's a lie to say there's not 500,000 people there. They will cover it only to criticize it. That I have seen on CNN. I forgot who it was who basically ended this like 3-minute diatribe. This was a few years ago. It was the year that I went. I went in 2013 with my wife. She wasn't my wife. She was my fiance at the time. But I went then. And after a 3-4 minute diatribe on CNN, I forgot who it was. It was one of their commentators, and he ended it by saying, "Oh, and by the way, thank God for abortion." Talk about the anger meter in my brain, thanking God for abortion. But that's about the coverage they'll give it. Just enough to lambaste it, say it was meaningless, and move on. But what Joe's going to talk about is that no, abortion is the topic, the debate. The fight against it is very much alive and well in this country, no matter what the mainstream media says. And Joe's going to talk about that.
So basically, because obviously abortion is in the news, the left have to basically put out their propaganda and their lies. And we're here to refute them. And we're going to refute 2 stories which came out. One is a study that came from an academic journal called the Social Science and Medicine Journal. And this is what it stated this week. It stated, women don't regret abortions. Really, guys? Really? Let's look at what they say. They say the study is alleging that relief is the most common emotion in women who have abortions, and the mainstream media is celebrating it. What they're basically trying to imply is women don't regret abortions. I'm going to say this again. Really? So, okay, let's dig a little bit deeper and get into the nuts and bolts of this. Let's go to Janet Marana. She's the co-founder of the Silent No More campaign. Basically, what they do is they help women recover emotionally after they've had abortions. Let's see what she says. She says, Rachel's Vineyard, a post-abortion healing program that is a ministry run from Priests for Life, holds more than 1,000 weekend retreats annually and is present in 49 states and 70 countries. Silent No More has registered the testimony of thousands of women who regret their abortions, and these women have been speaking publicly about their experience since 2003. Experience trumps rhetoric and bias studies every day of the week. Let me repeat that. Experience trumps rhetoric and bias studies every day of the week. Abortion physically and psychologically damages women. This is factual. And I'm going to read you a couple of the testimonies that I actually pulled from Janet's website. And you decide for yourself if abortion doesn't affect women.
I'd like to ask the feminists, ask yourself, do these women count? Do their feelings count? Do their experience count? I'd like to ask you that. Go ahead, Joe.
So let me read these for you. Jen from Washington states, For 19 years, I carried this secret burden. I struggled with depression, rage, and anxiety. I felt disconnected with people and extremely critical of myself and others. I couldn't bear it any longer. Deborah from West Virginia explains, over the years, as a result of aborting my child, I've experienced overwhelming grief, pain, loss, embarrassment, anxiety, fear, and shame. But with God's help and good counseling, I was able to forgive myself and now experience peace that passes all understanding. My heart is healed at last, and I will be silent no more. Cecilia from Florida testifies, my life spiraled into a life of self-hatred, drugs, alcohol, and wrong relationships. I ended up having 3 more abortions. Each time I felt like my life was being sucked out of me. I felt dead inside, empty. I hated myself and what I have become. Shelley from California says, I have regretted this now for 25 years. The pain is awful. I sometimes feel like I can't cope with the pain and the guilt. And an anonymous woman who regretted her abortion recounted, and this story is horrible, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. The abortionist came into the room and began my abortion. The nurse was leaning over me. She asked the doctor, is something wrong? He said, it is trying to get away. I've tried 3 times. I was shocked. What he said hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, it is trying to get away. I started to pray and ask God to stop all this from happening, to not let it work, to let it fail. He put his hand in the way of the vacuum. I couldn't believe what I was doing. Seconds later, the abortionist said, it's done. He put away his tools and left the room. From that moment on, I have regretted my abortion. I just wanted to die. I was angry. After the nurse left the room, I started to cry. A part of me died in that room. I knew what I did was wrong. The it he was referring to was my baby. I knew what I lost. I wanted to go back to that place and pull my baby out of the dumpster. My decision to have an abortion was final. It was over. I couldn't go back. If only I could live that day over again. What are these people talking about? What are they talking about? This is a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And this is the abortion issue of the 21st and the 20th century. Right now.
It's coming to a head. It's coming to a head. The statistic I read that's unbiased is, and this is where you could see where the numbers fall in America. There are 2 extremes. Joe and I have said a million times, we're extremists. We're abolitionists. No abortion under any circumstances at any place at any time for any reason. Okay, the baby does not deserve to die, even when it comes to rape and incest. The life of the child the life of that child should not be taken deliberately, simply because in the case of rape, the father was a rapist. All right, but this is where it's coming to. But the numbers show that about 48% of the people in America agree with us. Now they'll say, "Oh, that means that you're still in the minority." No. Because only 43% of the people are on the other extreme, which is that abortion like Andrew Cuomo and people like that. In other words, right up to the other extreme where the baby could be killed the day before they die. In the governor of Virginia's case, they can even be killed after they're born.
And 87% of Americans are not for a 3rd trimester abortion.
Well, that's
how
what I was
that's not
to.
100%. I don't even know.
Right, because you do have some. I'm sorry, you have people who make mistakes. You have people who, like these women, obviously regret their abortion. Then you have people. There was a tweet online the other day about a girl who was bragging and tweeting about she was about to go and kill her twins, calling them names as she was going to calling them.
She'll regret that. I'll guarantee it.
We got to pray for her. But here's the point: that 9% of people that figure are somewhere in the middle. Okay, they are not going to break. If they would break anyway, as far as the law is concerned, they're not going to be in favor of killing babies right up to the day before they're born. And if anything, they'd be neutral on banning abortion, because they're probably in the middle somewhere, and they're like, well, if abortion's illegal, it's illegal. If it's legal, it's legal. It doesn't really matter to me. So the left can't, the abortionists, they can't bank on those 9% of people. But as it is right now, 48% of people who favor banning abortion nationwide under any circumstances, That's substantial. That's substantial. That means that this fight is not settled. That they could say all they want, that Roe versus Wade is super precedent, which means nothing, and Casey versus Planned Parenthood is super precedent, which means nothing. This fight is very much alive. You want to know what the main reason is alive? Just to come off the abortion issue for 1 second and go to the politics, because Americans realize we never voted for abortion. The American people never voted for abortion ever.
And
this
if
was
they voted
imposed.
For it now, they would vote it out.
They would vote it out, or at least in the majority of states. If you went state by state, in the majority of states, abortion would be banned outright. All right, if not severely curtailed, which would basically ban it, because then Planned Parenthood wouldn't be able to make money, therefore they wouldn't do abortions. My point is that we have never imposed this on ourselves, not like Ireland did, let's say last year in 2018. All right, this was imposed on us by the Supreme Court, which very easily can undo this, which we'll be talking about probably next week after the March for Life. We're talking about, you right now have, I believe it's 170 congressmen and 30 or so senators that are petitioning the Supreme Court to revisit Roe versus Wade as an unworkable decision, that it's not workable. But that's a conversation for another day. But this fight is very much alive and well. That's why they're doing things like this, these campaigns, these Planned Parenthood. Women feel relief. Well, no, they don't.
The reason why, obviously, it's coming out because the voices of 500,000 people are going to Washington, D.C. next Friday. But also they know that this is one of their strongest arguments, that it's pro-women. And they know that it's not. That's why this garbage, this study came out. It's not. Tell these women that I just read that study. They'll take that and throw it in your face.
Or do something else with it, which they should do.
They are full of crap.
That's right.
The next time I hear somebody says that abortion is pro-woman, I think I might puke. It is such a lie. At least tell the truth. Say, I don't care about the child, that's why we're getting rid of it, and I don't care about the woman after the fact. I had an argument with someone at work about this, which I shouldn't do, but I got into it this week. How about this? Cigarettes have a disclaimer on them, right? They're dangerous. Yep, because he compared, like if you smoke cigarettes, you know that it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a disclaimer on cigarettes. How about you tell women that all of these things, and we've listed them on other shows, actually last week's show, of all the things that happen to women, post-traumatic experiences. Mm-hmm. Some of them are suicidal.
Right.
How about that? It has to be, you have to sign it. They wouldn't do that. Right. Because it blows a hole. I'm not making this up.
Right, it's true.
This isn't propaganda.
This is the shadiest operation that we've ever seen. Ever. When it comes to the Planned Parenthood and other abortion outfits and the way they do what they want. They want no government control whatsoever, even health and safety standards, okay? No admitting privileges for doctors at a nearby hospital. They want none of this stuff.
Do you know
they just want to be able to say, it's a right, that's it, butt out, you got nothing to say about it. And I'm sorry, I don't care what endeavor it is, okay, what action it is in this country. No, you don't just say you do whatever you want. And other society, culture, and the government doesn't have anything to say about it.
Do you know, in New York, and New York City, New York State, you could have a 3rd trimester abortion and the person perform. You ever see a woman who's 9 months pregnant? My wife is 5 months pregnant right now. You ever see a woman who's 9 months pregnant? I've had 3 kids. I'm very versed in what a woman looks like when she's 9 months pregnant. You could have an abortion in New York State legally, and the person conducting the procedure isn't a doctor.
Yeah.
What crazy person voted for such a law and then has the balls to say it's pro-woman?
Right. Right.
It blows my mind.
And now here's the thing, though. What they really didn't bank on, was this thing called the internet and independent social media, where people could voice what they want. And obviously some people listen because beautiful people like you listen to us, and many, many more, thank God, are listening to our show and the voices out there. They didn't bank on this. They're losing the battle on abortion because MSNBC, CNN, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, all right, PBS, they don't have a hammerlock on the message anymore. They don't have a hammerlock on the message anymore. People could go online, they go on YouTube, they go on Facebook. They could see these things now for themselves. They're listening to other voices, okay, other people who are offering the truth, not the lies that Planned Parenthood tells and their media allies. They didn't bank on this, and that's why, that's one of the reasons why they're trying to clamp down and put controls on the internet. They want to call guys like us for speaking in defense of unborn children in the womb
and defending women.
And defending women. They want to put us in the category of hate speech.
They want to put us in a gulag.
Well, they'll put us in the gulag.
That was our last segment.
Yeah, they'll put us in the gulag.
They'll put us in the gulag.
Those guys, those two jamokes from North Jersey are not going to be re-educated. So we'll try our best, but let's just send them out there, and then we'll make them work for 14 hours a day until they drop dead. I just want to give Eddie's got a good comment. Eddie said, remember how the right rioted and incited violence after Obama was elected in 08 and 012? Neither do I. That's right, Eddie, because it didn't happen. On the other hand, the left has been throwing a collective temper tantrum since November 2016. Absolutely right. I'm sorry. I'm not going to accept Charlottesville as being the only thing that these people could point to when that whole thing was a sham too. All right. And that, again, because of the power of the internet, that whole sham was blown up too. That whole event was staged, and that girl lost her life for nothing. You talk about a shame. That young girl lost her life for nothing, for a staged operation by the left where they try to pin something on the right. Because guess what? There is no right-wing violence in America. There is no white supremacist movement in America.
And if it does exist, to be honest with you, it's so far underground.
But here's the thing.
I don't even know where the hell it is.
Answer a question for me. Let's use our reason. Let's use a little logic. We know that the media is controlled by the left. Can we agree on that?
I think
mainstream media. If there was right-wing violence that they could point to outside of Charlottesville, because that's the only thing they ever point to, they would be reporting on it every single night. If there was a similar group on the right that was doing what Antifa did and Antifa does, it would be on the news every single night. Instead, what they do is they get their pundits to go out there, well, you know, it happens on both sides. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'm an angry man who's screaming into a camera, an angry Roman Catholic man. I'm not hitting anybody over the head, nor inciting anyone else to hit anybody over the head. I get angry because I just want people to tell the truth. That's all. Not with a baseball bat, not with a bicycle lock, not with a milkshake, not with a taser. Just tell the truth. As loud or as quiet as you want, just tell the truth. So they know this. And we're not letting them get away with it anymore. And that's the truth. And that's what they can't stand.
And also, no party is perfect, but know this. You pull the lever for a Democrat, this is what you're voting for.
This is what you're going to get.
And I've said this time and time again. There are certain things that disqualify you. If you are for abortion, in my view, you are disqualified. If both sides, Republicans were for it, or that's when I stopped voting. I'm off the grid. You're disqualified. Just like if a party was for slavery, I'm not voting for you. If you got everything else right and you had that on your platform, I'm not voting for you.
That's right.
And that's how abortion is, because it is murder and it is not pro-woman. And the worst part about it, they lie to the women who have the abortions and tell them they're going to get relief. They get no relief.
That's right. Let's give a quick shout out. We got Eddie, as I said, join us. Great comment, Eddie. PM, my man, PM. Lou's joining us. What's happening, Lou? Tara Marie. Hi, Tara. Sean's joining us. Who else came in? Fred. Fred joined in. Hey, Fred, how you doing? And everybody else we mentioned earlier. So we got a bunch of people right now watching. And we got a good show going on. And all right, so where are we going next, JoJo?
We are going to more leftist propaganda on abortion. Abortion is normal art. There's an exhibit in New York City to benefit Planned Parenthood. A new art exhibit in the Big Apple purports to combat abortion stigma and raise money for the nation's top abortion chain with the title and message, "Abortion is Normal." The central message is this: what you choose to do with your body is okay, and abortion is a basic human right. The proceeds from the event will benefit Planned Parenthood, and spending to educate voters, which are probably kids, young kids, re-education, more money for re-education. Let's look at some of this quote-unquote art. There are nude photographs and paintings with images of nude people, basically saying, "Thank God for abortion" shirts. By the way, after the March for Life on Friday, don't they have the Women's March?
Oh, yeah.
They wear, what do they wear on their
Pussy hats.
How nice. How nice. Basically.
Do they realize how idiotic they look, by the way?
Ridiculous.
See, at least
how about seeing men with them on?
Oh, yeah.
That's another.
Yeah, you see, you guys, if you want to see the definition of an emasculated male, I don't care if he's 250 pounds, can bench press 400 pounds, and he's jacked. If he's got that pussy hat on his head, he's an emasculated male.
Please. They got paintings of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and various basically rudimentary slogans and buzzwords like choice, dear Judge Kavanaugh, if you don't like abortion, don't get one.
I've heard, you know what? I've heard that line so many times in my life. You want to talk about getting violent? That makes me want to slap somebody in the teeth. When I hear that, don't get one. Okay, really? So I'm just supposed to I'm a man, I can't give birth to a child, but I'm just supposed to let you murder your child. That, which is, by the way, that is their attitude. You just let me alone. You have no idea. It's my body, blah, blah, blah. All the lines we've heard for the longest time. No, I'm a man. And you know what men do? Okay, you know what non-emasculated men do? They protect life. They protect life. They don't take life like you do, you feminists, you murderers, because that's what you are. And you try to convince these other women who might not have knowledge and information. You deceive them. And then you talk about, you always accuse the right and religious conservatives of just caring about the child and not caring about the woman, which is a lie. But after these women have abortions and they go to Rachel's Vineyard and all these post-abortion groups to try to help them cope with it, where are you in their lives? Are you helping them? You're offering them counseling?
And the Catholic Church, by the way, helps women through the pregnancy and after the abortion in Rachel's Vineyard, which is an organization that helps their post-traumatic abortion experience. So we're actually putting our money where our mouth is. The Catholic Church is there on the front line. They take women in, like the Sisters of Life in Manhattan.
That's right.
They take women in, they help them to have their child get on their feet. And even when women have abortions, the Catholic Church helped them to recover from it.
Right. Those Sisters of Life, they've helped.
Where's Whoopi Goldberg in that process?
She's counting her millions.
Where is she?
Right.
Like, this is, again, like, these people just lie to you.
That's all they do.
They lie to you.
But the whole edifice has been built on lies from the time of Roe versus Wade. In other words, if you look at the whole story of Roe versus Wade, how that case came about, it was down in Texas. Norma McCorvey, who, God rest her soul, she died. She converted. She converted to the Catholic faith, a lot
of people don't know that. That's
Norma McCorvey regretted her abortion. She found out the lies that were being perpetrated by the pro-abortion movement, the ones who were supposedly backing her. Okay, and she converted. She converted from pro-choice to pro-life, and then converted to the Catholic faith. And she died as a Roman Catholic. But she said flat out, they based that whole case on rape. There was all sorts of racism involved, because in order to get the sympathy of the court, they made her claim that she was gang raped by 3 black guys. Okay. In the meantime, Norma McCorvey was at that time, not living a great lifestyle. She got drunk at a bar. From the story I heard, the way I've read it, she got drunk. She went out, had a good time. She had sex. She got pregnant. It was that simple. And they seized on her, particularly in Texas, and that's where the case emanated from. But it was all based on lies. It's always been lie after lie after lie after lie. The founders of the pro-abortion movement, people like Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who killed 60,000 babies in the womb. Okay, he's a New York Jewish liberal, doctor, killed 60, championed abortion. All right, I forgot the other there was another gentleman who he was working with to champion abortion on the West Coast. So it was a New York operation and a West Coast operation where they were championing abortion. Dr. Bernard Nathanson converted. He saw the evil in what he was doing and what he was pushing. Another one, he was Jewish. He converted to the Catholic Church. He spoke out against abortion all the time until the day he died. And again, he exposed their lies. But like we always say, we know we bother you people sometimes when we keep saying it. You could get away with lying with impunity if you have a willing media
but you know
on
something,
your side.
They don't, even now, they used to say like it's a bunch of cells. Science, and this is basically what I was telling the gentleman at work, science says it's not a bunch of cells. I've had 3 children and I'm on my 4th. My wife is 5 months pregnant. She just came back with a sonogram. The child is sucking its thumb in the womb. You could see it as clear as day. Don't tell me it's a bunch of cells. That is a lie. You see, now, because science has evolved, my wife showed my mother the sonogram this morning. She's like, oh, when we had babies, this is exactly what she said, innocently, we couldn't see this. Well, you can now.
That's why they're against sonograms.
But they don't care. You see, it's gotten to the point where they're just like, just eliminate the child.
That's it.
Because they want, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, sex is recreational. And no one or nothing, even a child, will get in the way of my life.
Right. Didn't Michelle Williams say that at the Golden Globe Awards?
No one, nothing.
Did you see the one woman? You know what made me even more sick? And then I want to talk about Barbara's comment. But even was more sick than Michelle Williams saying basically that she is grateful for the woman's right to choose because it's helped her in her career. What was more sick than that was one of the women that was in the audience crying, shed a tear. Don't shed a tear for the baby.
Don't shed a tear for. How about the women we just read their testimony?
Don't shed a tear for them. We just need to be able to kill our babies because we just want to screw all the time. Which, if you think I'm being tongue-in-cheek, I'm not. That is exactly what sexual liberation is all about. We say it on the show all the time. Central to sexual liberation is contraception. When the contraception fails, or in your sexual liberation, you don't want to use it, okay? Then you want to be able to have an abortion. But real quick, because I think it's kind of funny. Barbara's in Wisconsin, by the way. All right. So the Packers and the 49ers are playing right now. Thanks for joining, Barbara. So Barbara says, this is such a sweet compliment. Barbara, we love you. She said, I'm trying to watch the Packers and watch you guys too. The Packers are losing. I've got the game on mute. The Packers sent imposters to California again. Well, sorry about that. The loss is real. I just had a pro-life fight on Facebook after I posted after every damn candidate is for abortion. I watch your show on Facebook and on Holy Faith Media. You guys are great. I'm having issues with the pack right now. You guys are the winning team for me tonight. Thanks, Barbara. We love you.
Love it.
Not as good as Aaron Rodgers, but
we're trying.
We're trying.
That's all we could say. Let's go to the U.S. bishops. We got a good story. U.S. bishops praise Trump's defense of religious liberty. A lot of times, we've said this on the show, and we are Catholic men. The bishops, first of all, Trump, no one has defended religious liberty more vehemently than Donald Trump, and there has never been a president since Roe v. Wade has been passed that has basically fought for life more so than Donald Trump. This is a fact. Yep. And the U.S. bishops have been silent, which is a disgrace. PM, you say we're not critical? Well, we're critical of our own leaders in the Catholic Church right now. They have been silent, and it's disappointing. Well, this gentleman basically is saying Donald Trump made January 16th a National Religious Freedom Day in the U.S., and this bishop, his name is George Murray from Youngstown, Ohio. He's the chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. He's the chairman of the Committee of Religious Liberty. He issued an official statement on that day. He said, just to grab a little segment from the statement, he basically said, on this Religious Freedom Day, we are grateful that the right of religious liberty is cherished in this country. I appreciate concrete actions the administration has undertaken, such as recent steps to protect faith-based social service providers. May we Catholics in America resolve to build on our inheritance for the good of all. So kudos to the bishops. Sadly, they don't speak out enough to basically applaud this administration, who is by far the most pro-life administration since Roe v. Wade. And frankly, I think the bishops have to step it up a little bit. I've said this before. If I see another bishop with cufflinks on, I may heave, to use the term of my friend John Kennedy in Louisiana.
Maybe we'll get violent towards them. I like to give a bishop a little backhand.
No, that's horrible.
No, I know.
Stop.
No, I meant the backhand. You know, sometimes people need a backhand to wake up a little bit.
But I know. But what I'm saying is, I think the bishops have to talk about more relevant subjects. I'll name three. One, 30% of Catholics do not believe in the true presence of our Lord in the Eucharist. Only 30%. Actually, no. Only 30% believe. This is the central teaching of the Catholic Church.
You think that would be a pressing issue for them?
Only 21% of Catholics go to Mass. 79% of the baptized Catholic population does not go to Mass. And only 4 out of 5 Catholics think the devil is a myth. I've even heard clergy say that.
Jesus didn't think the devil was a myth.
Jesus faced off with the devil.
Right.
And that's in the Bible.
Right.
Anyway, don't you think that these are subjects we should be talking about?
Well, at least within the Catholic Church.
How about we talk about this instead of talking about basically things like, oh, let me just pick one out of the sky. Abortion isn't a preeminent issue.
They said that. Or no, they have.
Which contradicts a document that they wrote in 1998.
Yeah, there was a good segment of the USCCB that did not vote in favor of that language, which said that the preeminent issue in America for the Catholic Church is abortion. There was 70 of them that probably wanted to throw in immigration or the climate change hoax into that whole mix, which we'll get into the climate change hoax in a second. You want to talk about violence. But yeah, they're derelict in their duty. So I was actually having a conversation with one of my wife's relatives who's visiting with us, and he was talking to me about the Catholic Church. And again, legitimate. Actually, he sounded like us when it came to some of the legitimate gripes he has with the church. And I said to him, I think I said this correctly. All right, and if anybody out there who knows better than me in the Catholic world wants to correct me, right now it is not the Catholic Church and the hierarchy of the church that I'm looking to for leadership, but I am fully a faithful Roman Catholic. I believe in the Catholic faith. So believe it, I'm disappointed. I'm disgusted with our leadership on a number of levels. We just had an interview with Joseph Sciambra. We were talking about a number of the leaders, not bashing, but being, I think, respectfully critical. And of people like Father James Martin, who he seems to be able to get their stamp of approval when he's out there leading people astray and being dissident and heretical. All right, got a lot of problems with the Catholic Church right now, but I don't have any problem with the Catholic faith. The Catholic faith is true.
The teaching
possesses the fullness of the truth.
And the sacraments.
And the sacraments
are the medicine for the world. I will say that time and time and time and time again.
And Christ himself, who's in control of human history, because he's the author of human history, will deal with this when the time comes. But what's incumbent upon us, on all levels, what we're talking about the church right now, when it comes to society, politics, culture, but on all levels. But in the church, what's incumbent upon us is to consistently, always tell the truth about things, the truth of what's going on out there, the truth that we know is true by the nature of our natural reason. We know when things are right. We know when things are wrong. Okay? And we need to speak out against all those things that are wrong and bad and ugly and evil.
And because I put my money where my mouth is, I do not give to the U.S. bishops. I give to the poor. I do not give anything that is affiliated with the bishops because they have to get their act together. I will not give them a dime. And every time they send me a letter my diocese, the Newark Archdiocese, I write a respectful letter, and I say in good conscience, I cannot give you a dime until you get your house in order. I will not give you a dime.
The only
I
reason
give my money to the poor.
Right.
And there are many good organizations.
And to the orders and the organizations that are really truly helping the poor. It's that simple.
And they're out there if you search them out.
That's giving to the church. If I'm giving to a Catholic order who's helping, let's say, the women we were talking about, or feeding the poor up in Harlem, then I'm giving to the church.
Absolutely.
I will say this though: Joe writes a respectful letter to the diocese when he gets the appeal. I got mine the other day, knowing how disrespectful my letter would be. I just simply took it and put it in the garbage. I didn't write any letter because we have a lot to be angry about.
And people who are Catholic who listen to my voice, this is what we have no control of what we can do to affect the church. Actually, we have a lot of control. We could fast and pray. I've said this on air before, and I will say it again. Fast for the church. Every Wednesday, fast for the church. My wife and I fast for the church.
Why don't you real quick, just for anybody who might be interested, a legitimate fast in the Catholic Church is what?
Well, it's not anything. You don't have to like whip yourself. That's not. It could be as simple as this. I'm not going to put sugar and cream in my coffee on Wednesday. I'm going to have for lunch a peanut butter and jelly sandwich as opposed to a full lunch. I am going to have a single granola bar for breakfast. I'm going to have a light supper, a salad, and a cup of soup. That's a fast. You're not going nuts. God recognized. What did Christ say? Christ said, only through prayer and fasting can you change things. That's what you can do. That's what I can do. And that's what I do for the church. Another thing I do, I will not give the bishops a dime.
Until they change.
Until they get their act together. I believe in what the church teaches, all of it. And I also want to see them speak on things and act like the apostles that Christ called them to be. And they're out there. We've highlighted a few of them on the show. Bishop Strickland in Texas, Tyler, Texas, Bishop Paprocki, Chaput in Philly.
Right.
You have
Cardinal Burke.
Tobin in Rhode Island.
Not Tobin in New
Jersey. I will not give them a dime.
Nope.
But I will give. But here's another thing that doesn't absolve you from being generous. You see, those who've been given much, much is expected. Christ will call us to that. Believe me when I tell you, we at our judgment, Christ has said in the book of Matthew, I was hungry and you gave me to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me to drink. I was naked and you clothed me. I was in prison and you visited me. And you also said, those who didn't do it, be gone from me. When I was hungry, you did not give me to eat. When I was thirsty, you did not give me to drink. When I was in prison, you did not visit me. When I was naked, you did not clothe me. That's how we'll be judged. A big part of it. And if you can, you should help people. But I will not give to the bishops.
Because quite frankly, they're not helping people right now.
And frankly, I find a lot of problems.
It's a sad state of
and
affairs.
It's sad, and I am a Catholic man, and I, in good conscience, cannot write them a check. But I absolutely, that does not absolve you from being a generous person. If you you can't eat, but there's a lot you can do in life. You could buy someone a cup of coffee at the train station.
Sure.
You could buy someone a hamburger. You do what you can do.
And let God do
and
with
no
it,
one has gotten poor by giving money, helping people. Because this is what it comes down to, and I'm kind of going off on a different tangent. Where is your kingdom? Is it here? You see, my goal in life is this. I want to retire in heaven. And as a father and as a husband, my job is to get my family to heaven. And I want to go to heaven. I don't want to retire at the Jersey Shore. I don't care.
No
I'll
beach-
stay where
no
I
beach
live.
house?
I don't care.
No beach house.
So that is incumbent upon me to live my faith and to do what Christ said. Because if you believe in Christ, if you believe he rose from the dead, you have to believe everything he said, because that makes him God. You see, if you don't believe he rose from the dead, then don't listen to him. But if you do believe that that man rose from the dead, you have to listen to him. And he said some fairly challenging things. And he said them to me. And he said them to you. So we got to do them. But I'm not giving to the bishops. I'm giving to the poor.
We'll give to the poor.
And I'll do that, and I'll sleep very well.
Yeah.
Let's go to Germany, Joe P. The tolerant people strike again.
Oh, another example of leftist tolerance and being open to ideas and dialogue and conversation. We always have to have dialogue. All right, let's see in Germany, let's see how they value conversation and dialogue over there when it comes to climate change.
The leftists in Germany try to shut down the screening of a film that is critical of climate change. A group of far left extremists attempt to shut down the screening of climate change critical film at the office of a populist Alternative for Germany party. It's called the AfD, vandalizing the area in front of the building with climate activist slogans. The film is entitled Myth of the Climate Catastrophe. There was a screening at the AfD party office earlier this week, but was met with protests from left-wing extremists who spray-painted climate activist slogans in the early morning hours before the screening. This is what a German conservative newspaper said about the film. They also helped create the film. Behind the alleged philanthropy of our opponents is an esoteric totalitarian spirit from which other opinions are suppressed and people are to be panicked before the impending end of the world. Nails it. Nails it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you can't disagree with these people. They say we're the intolerant ones. We're not.
Right.
I just disagree with you. I'm not saying we should recycle. I'm not even saying that there are pollution problems, cities that are polluted. I've been in polluted cities in my life. I've been in polluted cities in India. I've been in polluted cities in Cambodia. You want to talk about pollution? They burn their garbage in the sewer in the morning. You walk outside early in the morning, there's fires in the gutter. That's pollution. Plastic. Never mind throwing the plastic in the ocean. They're setting it on fire, smelling toxins. No exhaust laws.
Right.
That's pollution. I'm against that. But here's the deal. I mean, there are scientists that say that this is not the end of the world, and there are scientists that say it is. Why don't we have a dialogue?
They don't want a dialogue.
And they don't.
They don't want to. They want to talk about, how about the 500 scientists who signed a piece of paper, a letter to the UN, basically saying that climate change is a hoax. I want to see the representatives of those 500 scientists, the best of them, in a debate. Just pick 5, and I want to see them in a debate in America against 5 of the leading climatologists that are for all this hoax or try to present this hoax. You know what? I had an idea. I would ask, if I was in the presence of Donald Trump, okay, and he says, hey, Joe, let me ask you something. If I could do one thing, what would you want me to do? Now, I could think of a lot of things, right? As my mind wanders sometimes, so I think about these things. You know, one of the things I'd want him to do? I want to say, you know something, Mr. President? You run the executive branch. You control the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Okay, they waste money on stupid artsy fartsy projects that mean nothing. Okay, why don't you direct the directors of those 2 agencies, who get all sorts of funding, to commission a national debate on climate change, where those who are in favor of perpetrating this hoax could choose anybody they want, any 5 people they want. And then the opposing group could choose 5 people that they want, and then demand, as the president, again, who controls the executive branch, demand that PBS has to air it. And they demand that YouTube has to air it, and Facebook, and everybody has to air it as a public service debate. They're always talking about dialogue and conversation, that they have to promote it. And you do that for me, Mr. President. This way we could clear this up once and for all about this climate change nonsense. Those 500 scientists that signed that letter to the United Nations would be all in favor of it. I guarantee you Al Gore and the rest of them and all those scientists would say, no, we're not debating it. It's settled science. And that's when you know they're full of crap, because they wouldn't do it. They would not debate. They want to do what these people want in Germany. They want to shut you down. They want to spray paint your offices. They want to firebomb you. They want to put you in jail. Why? Because you're a denier. And they call you a denier, actually, like you're a Nazi.
Denier, that's insane.
You're a denier.
This was not isolated. The AFD party members have been subjected to many violent attacks over the last several years, with one estimate released in 2016 categorizing 800 separate attacks on members and their property. Last year, the infamous far-left extremist Antifa movement released an assassination guide directed at AFD members that showcased methods to kill politicians and escape being caught.
Now, let's, real quick.
You're going to have a stroke.
Okay? It's an assassination guide. Now, Tim Cook goes up in front of all these people in Silicon Valley and the entertainment establishment and says, Apple is not going to be part of hate speech. And what they characterize as hate speech is legitimate criticism of any of their protected group. Pick a group. Criticize African Americans, criticize Jews, criticize homosexuals. They're the ones who compartmentalize people, break everybody up in the group. So if you're legitimately critical of the actions of some people in these groups, you're a hater because you're perpetrating violence and you're inciting violence. And Apple is not going to have any part of that. Where's Tim Cook to shut down Antifa? An assassination guide is not an incitement to violence? Where's Google? Where's YouTube? Where's Facebook? Shutting down Antifa. And it's an assassination guide? Are you kidding me? They make the point that we made in the original segment. They want violence. They want an angry guy like me, who is not going to commit any violence, all right, except that they're trying to attack me or people I love, all right? Not going to commit any violence. They want a violent reaction. It can be the only thing. Michael Jones on Culture War says it all the time. He says they're looking at the dialectical movement of history. They know that if they can incite violence and there'll be a violent reaction, another violent reaction, it goes right up the chain, right to setting the stage for revolution, which is ultimately what Bernie Sanders wants, and his supporters like Kyle Jurek, who we talked about in the first segment, burning down Milwaukee and killing people and setting reporters on fire, MF in this, MF in that, F that. Like I said, I met guys like that. They think they're hipsters because they curse a lot. That's one of their things. Where are we going with all this? If in this country, on many of these issues, we can't do what I just said, that we should tell Donald Trump or the executive branch, who's ever in control. We need to start having public national debates in this country on all these issues where people can have it out in the area of ideas. If we can't do that, this country's finished. If we can't have a conversation, in other words, and really be truthful, you have to be truthful about all these things, okay, we're finished.
But they're not interested in the truth. You see, this is all about propaganda. It's all about agenda
and power.
And power. You see, we're trying to speak the truth. Do we do it perfectly? Probably not, because I'm not perfect.
Nor am I.
We're trying to speak the truth. You should aspire to speak the truth yourselves. Be damned the consequences. Be damned the consequences. You speak the truth. That's what you want your children to do, right? Well, your children aren't going to do it unless you do it. Kids don't listen to what you say. They watch what you do. Mm-hmm. So we got to speak the truth. And that's how things happen. they're not interested in the truth.
No.
Sadly. All these things that we talked about tonight, many of them, to be honest with you, are all smoke screens and lies. We're just speaking directly at them and breaking their basically premise to shreds.
Right, because they have none. It's all based on, that's why they don't want to debate, because it's all based on lies. Everything Al Gore says is based on lies. Now, the world was supposed to, according to all these people going back to the 70s, the world was supposed to end 10 years, and then when it gets there, well, it's going to be in another 10 years. It's going to be, it's like the wacko guy who knows when Jesus is coming back. You know, as he predicted it in 1970, it was going to be on March 13th or whatever, 1982, and it didn't happen. And he goes, well, you know, it's actually, I did the math wrong. It's actually going to be in another 13 years. It's the same type of thing. And they put that poor little girl, Greta Thunberg, they put her up there like a puppet. They used this girl, okay? They used her. In other words, to put her up there to cry. She's a good little actress, okay? She gets up there and cries and says, how dare you, and all that. And they use her to try to tug at our heartstrings, thinking that's going to work. And when people say, I understand she's a 16-year-old girl, she's really cute and everything, she should really be back in school and shut her mouth and go learn something, okay? When you don't react the way they want, then it turns to what you just read about in Germany. In other words, where there's going to be violence. So on all these issues, not just climate change, obviously that's one of the big ones, on homosexuality, on migration, let's say, on all these different things, they are going to fight tooth and nail, and they are about to get violent, because I'm telling you something, Donald Trump's going to get reelected.
Oh, I know that.
The impeachment's going to go nowhere, and Donald Trump's going to get reelected. Then Kyle Jurek is saying Milwaukee's going to burn. And I hope he's prepared to be a martyr, because there's some people who live in the Badger State that are not going to allow Milwaukee to burn. And they might hurt you, Mr. Jurek. But again, we have to wonder, we have to ask ourselves, is this what the left wants? Do they want martyrs? Do they want people to act violently? The answer, I think, is yes. And the answer that Joe and Joe have is violence is not, we cannot react violently. We just have to keep doing what we're doing, which is telling the truth. That's the only way it's going to happen. We can keep telling the truth, try to influence the culture, which will influence our politics, where we could move on and get back to a more sane society. Because right now it seems like it's insane. It seems like everything is insane. It seems like everything is coming off the rails. The economy be damned. Everything else is coming off the rails.
It's a good conversation.
Well, it's an interesting one. A lot of these are things that don't make you feel very good. From the first story with Kyle Jurek to the last story with Germany, and these leftist thugs, which is what they always have been and what they always will be. They're leftist thugs. We really just have to use the tools we have. YouTube, Facebook, you know, as long as it's free right now, free, I mean in terms of free expression of ideas, and just keep telling the truth. Keep telling the truth in the workplace. Keep telling the truth with your family. Don't back down from the truth. You could say it nicely, but you got to say the truth. Keep saying it. Trust me, the smallest thing you do, if you're telling the truth, okay, it'll resonate. It means something. And really, that's the way we're going to fight against these people. That's what I think. Anyway, so it was a great show, and we're going to be on the where are we going to be?
Well, like I said, on Tuesday we're on the Crusade Channel. That is a paid network out of Louisiana. If you want to listen to us, you have to subscribe to the Crusade Channel. We do not get any money, just so you know that.
But it's a great channel.
It is a great channel, and you have access to many good programs. We're on Tuesday from 11 to 12. We'll be on the 30th of January from 11 to 2. Again, that's the Crusade Channel, Mike Church's channel down in Louisiana. Expect more interviews from us. We just did an interview with Joseph Chiambra. It is a fantastic testimony. And if you ask me, and I say this in all humility, I think it was well done. The interview is very powerful. And he basically has a lot to say, and I think he is a prophet.
He's the modern-day St. Paul.
There's no question in my mind. And he is a voice that should be recognized and heard in our culture today. So keep watching. And we'll still be here.
And we thank you for it. And just one quick shout-out to who I overlooked, and sorry for overlooking, guys. Aldo joined us Leone, and Frank.
Big Frank, what's up, brother?
All right, so remember, Facebook Live, Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Frontline with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello, Holy Faith Media on YouTube. That's where all our interviews and videos are also being posted over there. Stay tuned for some interviews. And remember that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. See you next time.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
Once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. Oh, you're Catholic? Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You acted like an American, okay? Now, there's a number of different things that have to be done in this country to change the culture, which will in turn change the politics.
And the culture's a swamp. Because that is not a Catholic teaching.
Right.
And the cafeteria is closed, my friend.
Yeah. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. He tells the truth, just like we do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. We got a great show for you tonight because, as we always say, the left is teeing it up for us, and we're Barry Bonds standing at home plate, ready to knock their lies right into San Francisco Bay.